Hey guys, Juan and Anjelica here, back for another episode. And in this episode, we actually have our first interview with a guest. We have our first guest on the show, and it was a pretty special guest, I think. I think it was for you especially.
I'm excited.
And Anjelica did the interview, so we're basically introducing it right now, but it was Anjelica that had the conversation with him.
I did. It was a previous past teacher that I had in high school that I kept up with, and we had an interesting conversation as to because I went to an at-risk youth, at-risk high school. It was a charter high school in the 90s, right? Oh my God, I'm giving away my age. But
a high school for at-risk kids, right?
Yeah, youth. Yeah. And so it was a smaller school, and it was like the thing. It's where you send the bad kids. I wasn't bad. Okay, let me clarify that.
Oh no, we might need to ask your mom about that.
Yeah, maybe. I just didn't like to go to school, and so I got kicked out of public school. And so I ended up there, and we had a really interesting conversation. I really hope I hope this intrigues you. I hope you listen through, and I want to hear what you have to say.
And just from being in the background, I thought it was a really interesting conversation. But having just had the conversation today, what would you say was one of your takeaways from the conversation?
One of my takeaways?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I really have to think back on it.
Okay. Well, tell us a little bit more about Jay so people know who he is and have a little bit of background before we go into the interview.
Okay, so Jay, like I mentioned, was a high school English teacher that started with the actual school. So when the school was out of a church building, he started teaching there as, I think, social studies or something like that. And the school was completely small. I think they had maybe about 40, 50 students, and then they moved into an office building, and they progressively got bigger as the organization grew and grew. And now it's just a staple. It's a place that everybody knows here in Houston. I'm happy to have been. I'm not one of the pioneering students that attended, but I'm definitely the old school, one of the old school students. My class, I think, of graduation, I think we were 100, maybe 200.
You were one of the OGs.
Yeah, I was one of. I'm not you know what I mean, but I'm one of the OGs. Yeah,
not the originals, but you're in there. You're in there somewhere.
I'm the originals. Take two.
All right. Well, you guys enjoy the conversation and. Yeah, enjoy.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of Juan Words Podcast. Today, this is my first live interview, pre-recorded interview, hopefully. I have here a very dear person to me that I'm excited to present. You, our viewers, our listeners, I hope you're listening, a very special guest. Do you want to introduce yourself? Or should I introduce you?
Well, oh God, I'm afraid of what you might say. My name is Cherin. I teach English, and Anjelica was one of my students way back in the days, and we have a lot in common and have reunited since long being apart, and hopefully we'll have a lot to share with you about our history together and how our paths have crossed.
Yeah. So to clarify, you were my English teacher in high school. Were
we using pencils or still sticks in the sand then?
Good God, a chalk? I don't know.
Chalk, okay.
We were
that's when I started teaching.
I'm not sure what that was.
When I started teaching, I was using chalk.
Yeah. So this was, oh my God, 20 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
Has it been 20 years?
Yeah.
It has been 20. Oh my God.
I want to get some of your beauty cream.
Right. Yeah, it's called No Sleep. So yeah, you were my high school teacher, and then of course I started working at the nonprofit that you were working at. So it was back way in the day. It used to be a school that was a charter school. Charter schools back in the day were for at-risk youth, were kicked out of the public school system who had nowhere else to go.
What year did you graduate?
So I ended up.
What year were you at Central?
So the year I was supposed to graduate was 2000 or 2001. I don't remember, but the year I graduated was 2003.
One of the first charter schools.
Yeah. So I think they opened in 93.
Well, as a charter school, it became one of the first charters in 96.
In 96.
But the school, George I. Sanchez School,
mm-hmm.
was opened in 1974.
Yeah, I remember they talked about.
So we can talk about a little about that history, because that's fascinating,
Yeah,
especially
it is.
For the folks who don't know about what it was like, or who want to reminisce with us about what life was like in the barrio and back in the days in El Movimiento.
Yeah, it was interesting. I do remember the conversations stemming back to like what it was like. They used to office out of, or the school used to be out of office buildings, and they just used like one or two like um, office rooms, and they had like a total of maybe a couple of students, maybe 20. By the time I showed up, they had maybe 150. I mean,
Yeah.
our cafeteria was in a larger office space. Literally, they'd have to like
Was it the room that we knocked the wall out of to make like
yeah,
an extra
yeah,
big room? Yeah, with the L shape. Yeah,
yeah. That one was it. That was it.
that was also our auditorium, our
Yeah,
indoor auditorium.
yeah, yeah, and it. I mean, it was tiny. We all fit in there for lunch.
We did, and we would have
So
assemblies.
yeah, no, we had the assemblies
The
outside because
assemblies
we
were
needed everybody in
outside.
there.
That's right.
Yeah, do
And if
you
it was
remember? It was a
raining,
gazebo, and they
it
would
was
use like a
raining, we
mic.
didn't have the assembly until the next day.
Yeah, 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 and we would all be out there. So it was a tiny school. So by the time I got there, they did okay, like form it into a charter school, uh, and it was a small school, and we were at risk youth, and I wasn't the kind of person that did like I didn't fight. I didn't do any of that. But what I did do was I didn't show up to school, which is how I got kicked out of like public school. I skipped all the time. It was a very um it's just something I did. I didn't want to be in school. I didn't really necessarily like school. I didn't see the its purpose. I didn't understand like what I wanted in life. I just knew that if I didn't go, my mom was gonna get in trouble. And I didn't want to get my mom in trouble.
Yeah.
So I ended up there. And then that's when I think life started to shift for me. I started to understand, okay, this is different. And then, of course, I was introduced to teachers like you. And as I told you before, you have been uh, very impactful in my teens, which has then shifted my mind to be kind of the person I am today, right? There's those people, there's those teachers that just stick with you.
Yeah.
And
Oh
you just
yeah.
happen to, you were an English teacher.
Mhm.
Is that the subject you always taught?
Yeah. Well, actually, so let's going back my history at Sanchez. In I finished graduate school in 1988 and came back to Houston and was looking for a teaching job and ended up getting the leftover semester of a social studies teacher position at George I. Sanchez. And so I started out and this is when the school was a private school, and we were part of the Job Training Partnership Act, and skills training, and everything was, work-based skills, and, that kind of thing. And nonprofit, very much nonprofit, begging for money, and our library was all donated books. Um, and so that's when the school building was over in off of Harrisburg Harrisburg and Sherman, and it was
Yeah.
a renovated church. And I had to tell my students, don't run, because we were upstairs on the upstairs part of the sanctuary part, and the floor would shake, and I was always afraid that the floor would collapse. But that was actually an upgrade, and all of Ami's offices were there. The Adelante, they had the adult education program at night, and so everybody was sharing everything. It was kind of like, just really, really grassroots,
It
and
was.
low budget, very low budget, but it worked, and lots of kids finished high school as a result. And then and then we got a contract with HISD to serve as an alternative school. And so we did that. And then when charter schools became part of the plan, they were supposed to be very innovative and experimental. And our school
Mhm.
was really, community based. I mean, it was, AMA started out focusing on how can we serve the Mexican American community in Houston better than the services that are being provided in the 1970s. And that kind of kept up for a long time. And then we became a charter school, and it just grew, and the budget we were able to serve a lot more students.
Well,
And,
I do know Alma expanded because of the school, because of the notoriety it started getting, and the students that were actually coming out of there.
Yeah. Well, as funding became available, we were able to provide better services. And I mean, it's just really good evidence that, when a school gets the funding that it needs, it can provide really good education. I'm working at a school right now in a school district, Galena Park ISD. The funding is really good, and they provide services for every single student imaginable.
Mhm.
All of our at-risk kids are getting served, and so once we got the
They're getting
funding,
service there at the school. So
at school, so
yeah,
there's really
back in
not
the
a need
day,
for an alternative kind of campus there.
yeah.
Um, and even out where I am, where I'm teaching in what's like neo suburbia, um, there's not a real demand for the charters because the schools out there are
Mhm.
really providing what they need. Whereas I think in other areas, charters have filled gaps.
Mhm. We can look. I can have a whole conversation about the charter schools right now.
Yeah, I know. Let's save that for
What's
another. Let's
happening.
save that for part two.
Yeah, part two coming soon. It's not what it used to be. I am not sure they're doing what the intention was. I'm not fully like on board with it completely.
Yeah.
I've had my own experience with my son attending a charter school, and it just did not go well. To the point where I had to pull him within the first 6 weeks. I was like, I can't do this. Like I'm not sure where he's at. So I have an entire I have my own scruples with charter schools. But going back to like the students there, the so when I was going to like regular high school, it was a lot of immaturity.
Like
Like the
regular
regular high
high
school,
school and then our school. And
yeah,
it
there was
was
a lot
very
of
true. It was very different.
immaturity. A lot of people who were at Sanchez were just like they just either lived life, they were trying to get by, they just knew what they either wanted to do, so they were there to be up to no good, or they were there trying to get the hell out of there.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, did you want to chime in?
No, I totally agree. I
Mhm.
totally agree. And I think, there were some people who fell into several categories,
Yeah,
but everybody had their own reason for being there.
yeah,
And it wasn't, and everybody accepted each other because they knew that. They knew that, hey, if I'm going to get my plan accomplished, I got to be tolerant of other people's plans, which made it.
gangs were the thing back in the 90s.
Oh God. I
And so
mean,
you had a lot of rivalry even within the school. And even there, they had to get along.
I had in my classroom hanging on the wall for several years, just a simple printout from color printer, the word red and the word blue, but red was printed in blue and blue was printed in red. And my ninth graders, especially, the ninth graders, they were kind of like, so mister, what you trying to say, huh? I was like, I'm not trying to say anything. It's colors, words. How are you reading it? And I turn it on them, which was my full intent.
Yeah,
Let's recognize what we're dealing with,
yeah.
but think about it.
Yeah, yeah. There was I remember even a few occasions because where the school is sitting at now, there was a convenience store slash gas station right in front, and a few things happened there.
Now, is
One,
that the store on Wayside or where the hamburger joint ended up?
no, it's right on 45,
Yeah.
so it's right in
Oh,
front of the
okay.
building.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the Texaco.
yeah, yeah. The
Okay.
Texaco.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember when
My
I was
first
working there.
opportunity to stop a gunshot wound happened there.
All the time. It was a regular thing.
Yeah.
There was constant people driving by shooting. I mean, and this was a school. And
Yeah.
it was, but then again, we come from neighborhoods where we're used to that. We're
Right.
used to that kind of, that I don't, it's an atmosphere. I don't know what to call it. We're used to that kind of situations that happen. You're hoping those gunshots aren't close enough to you that you kind of
Right.
like, okay,
Yeah.
you just stay out of sight,
Or it just went
sit
up
down for a
and
second.
didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And so,
There was
oh,
one time that somebody, we had the adult education program there. And I think there was one time we actually had to lock down because somebody's husband was looking for
I
his
remember that.
wife who had had an affair and was with a gun and all over campus. And yeah, that was, yeah.
It was wild.
I guess you could say that's when the school shooters had maybe real reasons instead of just shooting up kids. They actually had beefs with people.
Yeah. Yeah, they had They had all out like situations there. Gangs were, like I said, like a really big thing in the 90s. And it just,
The
we,
apartment complexes.
yeah. So the students that went there came from all sorts of areas, like the
Yeah.
east, the southeast, the northeast of like the area. And we all kind of grouped there, right?
We used to have teacher in services.
Hmm.
We would get handouts. These are the different gang signs.
Yeah.
So when you get notes and papers turned in, or you see kids doodling, or you see tattoos, this is how to read this.
Yeah.
And we all learned, all the gang signs. Then they went ahead and changed them.
Yeah. So what I want to cover really quick is the implication that that kind of high school had on students, for instance, like me, and people like you. I've conversated with you about how I ended up dropping out of school.
Hmm.
I didn't see the purpose, and I just wanted to like live my life and do what I needed to do, I guess, to get by. I was just living. There was no real purpose. Like there's a purpose, but the instance was like, okay, life is what it is. Like it's unfortunate for me, it's unfair for me, but whatever. I'm just gonna do what I need to do. Maybe hopes sometime that I'll become like a manager of some like this small department store, maybe a grocery store. Like that was what I aspired to do. And that there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But that was my highest achievement that I thought that could be for myself. I didn't know there was more. I didn't know that I like what we're doing now, right? We work for ourselves, we make our own income, and we do what we need to do. So, but those kind of, that would have never happened had it.
And are you living in the same zip code that you grew up in?
Yes, I do. I do. I
Okay.
definitely am a firm believer of coming back to your neighborhood and try to do as much possible good as you can while you're here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why I asked that, because I thought you would have
Yeah.
stayed to your roots. Yeah.
The thing. Well, yeah. I still there's still a few things that I want to do if I ever leave the neighborhood and stuff. But so um what ended up happening was that I dropped out of high school, and then I was pregnant. And then I had
Mhm.
a very courteous call from what used to be the assistant principal back in the day, Mr. B. Called and he's like, "Hey, what are you doing?" Like nothing. I mean, it's a casual call. He was like, "Hey, what's up? How have you been?" I'm like, "I'm doing okay. I'm pregnant." Like, "Are you gonna graduate?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "You still have time." He's like, "Why would you do this? Like, why would you leave like less than a year of credits and not graduate? I don't understand. Are you gonna finish?" And I was like, "What? Like now I can still come back?" He's like, "Yeah. What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Okay." And I showed up, and then immediately they had this new service where they would send the homebound teacher to your house
Yeah.
and take all your assignments and then bring it back to the teacher, and the teacher would grade and all that other great stuff. And but that's how I ended up graduating high school. My son was,
My motto has
yeah,
always been, and so many people that I've worked with, whatever it takes.
yeah. Yeah, there was always Sanchez, especially the admin, like Mr. Bean. There was always conversation as to how to get these students back,
Mhm.
what is necessary needed for them to do what they need to do to get in these
But
classrooms, learn this material, and not just get a GED, but an actual,
right,
diploma.
yeah,
Yeah, I was at the point.
when there were times that we recommended GEDs for students too.
Yeah,
Um, you know, Sometimes it was just, hey, you're going to be 21.
yeah,
There's no way you can get enough credits. This is the way, and you can still go to community college and go on further and
yeah,
just a different path. Um,
yeah. That was me.
but
That's what.
the irony is that so many schools now are doing, public schools
Yeah.
are doing what we did
Hmm.
and tried as pilots. And I
Yeah.
think that was the neat thing, and maybe the thing that got lost is that that need for innovation, I
Hmm.
think, might have been supplanted by the need for testing. And now, especially with COVID, where like testing's like, okay, that's not going to keep us healthy. Let's
Hmm.
just set that aside for now,
Hmm.
and the kids will grow, and we'll deal with the gaps and do the best we can. That kind of resets us and puts us back to this very innovative situation. How are
It
we going to
does.
educate kids
It does. It especially
that are
does
in
when
different situations?
teachers aren't, I mean, teachers, parents aren't teachers. Like they sometimes they don't know how to teach the material, or they never, not that they've never bothered. It's just not something you do. And then
It's not a
teaching
parent's
methods are going to
job
be different.
to do academics.
Yeah.
You know,
There's just some things you can't do.
parents teach lots of things that I don't want to. I don't want to have to teach my kids how to pee in the toilet. Um, I just don't do that thing. You know, or but I depend on parents to teach certain
Yeah.
things.
Yeah, definitely. There's, yeah, there,
I
yeah.
don't
I
know.
mean, working there myself, I was like,
At least the grandmother. You know.
yeah, I didn't understand. I was very much working there. I understand. I understand that now. But as a student, I was I was very enamored with just being there at that point. When I, of course, when I had my, even okay, so they even had like daycare for the mothers who had like kids, like young kids. I mean, we had some girls there who had like up to like two kids, two, three kids, like in
Oh yeah,
daycare, trying to finish
yeah,
out their high school. I'm
absolutely.
not sure
That
three. I remember there
and
was like
and
that too.
and there were so many special things that went on with the child development center there, and we had some wonderful staff that helped to develop that. Darlene McCourt and Dawn
Yeah,
Halliday back in the day, um, and the moms were just, you know, I loved seeing mom coming with kid who had the matching backpack to mom,
yeah.
and having the special and you know like the spring holiday out in the gazebo area with the kids, and
Mhm.
all the moms bringing foods and treats and things that you know it's homemade food. And you know
I can still
just
think back on the
you know
days of
and having
Easter.
lunch with moms and their
Yeah,
kids in the
yeah,
same table, you know
yeah.
that was a neat experience for high
Yeah, they had
school.
a special room dedicated to the mom sitting with them with lunch and get picking up for lunch and like
Yeah.
even Easter was like a thing. I remember like we
Oh
walked from
yeah,
class to class and the kids would be like running around looking for Easter eggs. Like it
and
was a different
Halloween,
experience. Like when I say
Halloween
high
trick
school
or
was
treating.
different, it was different.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I and it all evolved around education. There was teachers there to teach the kids that were old enough to be taught.
I don't have any kids myself, and my brother doesn't either. But I
Mhm,
have thrown a baby shower
mhm,
for Philip Valdez. This was when the MPEG building was already there, and I was
mhm.
in that upstairs room with
Yeah,
a view. Um, but we had a baby shower for him.
for
It
one
was
of the
so cool.
students.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, the whole class was in on it and stuff. It was
Yeah,
great.
yeah. There was even some parents that would go to the school together.
Hmm.
They had their family, every day they would show up.
Yes.
They would be there. The kid would go to daycare. The parents would go off to their classes, and they would finish. So it was very much adapted to like that we were in. There was
Yeah.
young mothers, there was young fathers, there was people that needed. I mean, they served the community well, and they did very well. But out of those communities, I mean, out of those
And I
communities,
think
I mean,
also
they've gone back to
the families got
Mhm,
served because so many
they
times
did
I had you know multiple members of families, you know the Albas, the whole family, the
generations.
Ramirez, the Ramirez's, you know Roger's teacher's still there.
Yeah,
You know, I mean every Ramirez kid went through Sanchez, and
yeah.
yeah, I still keep up with them very much.
I remember them, but I don't remember them that well. But it's
So
so
so Mr. Ramirez Antonio, he was on the security staff at one point,
uh-huh.
and he was a maintenance man. He's a guy. He has a wonderful long black ponytail, um, and he was great. And then Rosa was just always there for school. She was on the PTA thing, and
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah. I'm trying to think back and I'm like, I can't. I have, then again, I have horrible memory, like with like faces and names. I'm bad at it sometimes. But so yeah, so I think one of the things that I wanted to touch on was like the impact that the students back in the 90s, late 90s, early 2000s, right? Kept up with some of them, and I would have never thought like the things that they're accomplishing now, the things that they're doing now, the places they're at. Like, again, had we not funneled through Sanchez, had we not funneled through Ama, I think we would have like who knows what would have happened, you know? I mean, there's some sad moments and some sad times that some people did pass away, due to the circumstances and where they ended up. But I think through the graciousness of where we were at, and it was all by luck. honestly, it was all by luck that we ended up there. That we all ended up. I mean, could you just explain to me like how? Because you keep up not only with me. There's other students that you keep up with. Can you just talk maybe a little bit about like maybe their accomplishments or where you see or the
Oh
shift that
wow.
they had?
um, yeah. Gosh, so there's so many success stories,
Hmm.
and unfortunately, there are some people who still struggle.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there are some people that I know, are having some, yeah, real struggles. That but boy, let's talk about successes. I'm going to give an example. I'm going to give a shout out to Alex Vara, who's he and his sister Evie both went to Sanchez, and this was in the 90s, like about 96, 98 area, and Alex got a job I want to say it was during this. So he got a job as a valet at
Hmm.
Texas Children's Hospital.
Hmm.
And over the years of working there, he got to know some of the doctors. And after he graduated, one of the doctors said, "Hey, you're really smart." And so, long story short, he's now the executive administrative assistant in the childhood epilepsy section of Texas Children's Hospital.
Jeez.
And I really wondered if Alex was gonna, he was a struggling student.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, the stepping stones, they just
Yeah.
happen, and a lot of the times it's where you are at the right time. Yeah.
Yeah, it is sometimes about it is sometimes, well, I mean, what do they say? Luck is simply when preparation meets opportunity.
Yeah, and also I think talking to people. You got to talk to people, even across the street sometimes.
Yeah. So I think I've kept up with a lot of people, and one of the things that is not wasn't back way in the day wasn't very common for a lot of us was to like show up, attend college.
So yeah, so college, as an
Yeah. So
opportunity.
graduating, simply graduating like high school was already a big deal. Trying to get into community college and finish those 2 years was not a thing that everybody did. And then actually moving on to a 4 year college, you're going directly from Sanchez to a 4 year college was like,
Ah.
yeah, yeah, we celebrated those people. Like, we were like these
Well,
high achievers. Like, how did you end up here? Yeah.
the tough thing is that back, so many who got the 4-year scholarships and stuff really had difficulties because they weren't prepared for that kind of situation.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, yeah.
Yeah. I remember the first time that I was ever like thought of like in a college form type of thing was actually my another English teacher in 8th grade. She selected a few students and she brought us all to Rice University where she like
Mm.
graduated from. She like they gave us a tour and everything, and we went back to her house and she had baked lasagna and all this other stuff.
Oh,
And she
yeah, yeah.
was telling us that she was like, "Yeah, y'all are like," she was like, "I really see y'all really going to college. Like I really see y'all being like um having that, being able to push yourself." And I was like the only college I've ever stepped on campus was like to drop off my mom when she would go work as a janitor, you know what I mean, late at night with like my
Sure, yeah,
sister or my
yeah.
brother or whatever. And I was like,
Goodwill
what?
Hunting here.
Yeah. And then the second time I did a college tour was at University of Texas in Austin, and that was through Sanchez. And Sanchez, like again,
Huh?
of course, it was students who were keeping up with like better grades, or maybe they seen the opportunity to like maybe they could potentially like show up to the school and be, you know, be an alum and stuff like that. And I was like, how do you want us to do this? Like we are struggling, like like you see us pushing and like we're dragging. How do you see this? And the thing is that I don't know why parents always, God, bless their souls, bless their hearts. But teachers see it. I don't know how to explain it. They see the potential. Like they see what you can potentially do, even if you don't achieve it. And that within yourself creates a lot of momentum. And you look back and you're like, how do you see it? I don't see it. How do
It's
you see
okay.
it?
A lot of kids these days haven't seen The Wizard of Oz, but you have,
Yeah.
right? Okay.
Yeah.
So I call it it's when we become the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
Our students come in. we don't have to. There's nothing that says we have to be nice. We have to do that. We have to do anything except teach. But to get the kids to become themselves over time, reach their potential, they have to believe in it, and they have to know that somebody with credibility says they can do it, like almost like a permission slip. Like, okay, you're not an idiot. You got a brain. Here's your diploma. Go to it. And trust me, I didn't learn most of what I know until after I graduated high school. So the diploma was just my ticket to go actually learn it.
Yeah.
I had the preparation, but I didn't know shit. Excuse my French. It's a quote, Coach Mitten.
Yeah.
Excuse my French.
Yeah.
Damn.
No, it's perfectly fine.
So the Wizard of Oz is the teacher who gives the medal for courage, bravery to the lion, and says sometimes to the student, like, I don't know how to help you, but I think I know people who can.
Yeah.
Here she comes right now, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so that's a lot of the success. Also knowing, you have to know your shit. I mean, there's so many teachers who, my God.
Well, I didn't know. So I learned later that some teachers have a 7-year life shelf there at schools because they can't do it. And so when I talked to, how long have you been teaching for?
I've been teaching since 1989. So
what is that?
What is that?
Math. What is math?
Since that's almost 29 years.
29 years. 30 years? Yeah.
No. 30. No, it's 30.
31.
It's 31.
31 years.
Don't edit that out.
Yeah.
That's 31 years ago.
The years mess up everybody. I don't know. It feels like 19. It feels like 2018. Like it doesn't even feel like 2020. I don't know what month.
I'm always asking Daniel, what day is it?
COVID has really messed up everybody. COVID has really fucked with everybody. So one of the success stories that I do want to talk about, that I do want to touch on, Jay, because he was a very good friend of mine when I was going to Sanchez, was Tirso.
Yeah.
Tirso.
Okay, Tirso is the only student of mine who ever took English 4 3 years consecutively. And he gave me a thank you note that said it was the best D he ever made. And I wrote him a letter before graduation congratulating him, and he still has the letter.
He still has the letter?
Yeah. Okay, so what do you know about
Tirso. So I was, of course, he was from the other side of per se. He was from the other side of Houston. Like he wasn't exactly mixed in with the group of people that I knew. Mm-hmm. He was right. So I'm from this side of the city, and people don't mesh well, and people whatever. But he was from the other side, and I remember just coming across him in what do you call it? I was going to call it the corridors. I don't even know, the hallways.
The hall.
The D hall. Yeah, it was a D hall. Back in the offices that would have been in the back, that would have been the building in the back. But I did. So I remember meeting him in, I think, one of the math classes or something like that. And he was nice to everybody. He didn't bring his worldly things to school. Like he left him there, and I don't know if he picked him back up when he went home or did whatever he needed to do, but he was always really nice to everybody. And we really hit it off. Like we hung out even outside of school. This is the person that would pick me up with his friends and our friends. We would all get together and we'd go to a park down Memorial Drive and just hang out. We had a really, really good time. And I really got to know him well then. Right. And of course I lost contact and I lost touch after a while. He graduated and he went on to do things. And I really never, I didn't keep up with him until Facebook came around. And that's when, of course, I'm not sure if I added him or he added me, but anyway, this is when I started learning the things that he's been up to. And he's been up to a lot of really good things. Again, he had that entrepreneur, the thrive and thing for him, that he
He
Oh
would
yeah,
sell
oh yeah.
tacos for lunch.
What I'll do is I'll send you some of the pictures that from back. I have a picture of him selling tacos through the fence.
Yeah, yeah, because he was kicked
Um,
out for selling tacos because they didn't want him selling tacos to the students
right,
when
because yeah. But his tacos were so good. Um,
they were.
but he would come every day instead of coming to school and sell the tacos, even when he was enrolled.
Yeah, yeah. He would leave home, pick up the tacos, come back for lunch, and then sell them like through the fence. But
Mhm.
he always had that entrepreneur spirit. Again, not everybody has to go to college. Everybody just has to have that thrive and that drive to want to do something more, to want to just, not just like hang out and let time just pass you by. And so and he does like amazing things. And I think I had a conversation.
Now he's like a cornerstone of the food truck business in Houston.
Yeah, yeah. So he does food truck parks.
Yeah,
Yeah, he develops food truck parks. I guess him and associates or investors, and
he's
they
a real
develop.
estate developer. He's a commercial real estate developer. Let's call him
Yeah, yeah. I think that's what it's called. Yeah, and so he develops them, and I think he has a lot of other like ventures that he does that he doesn't talk
that.
about either.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I know him to do. I remember he added me like a page that we were hoping that we could grow, but it just didn't happen. There was like other things that were happening. Um,
Was
that
that was Norma Motu also involved with that?
I'm sorry,
Was Norma Motu also involved with that?
I don't remember.
Because she's another success story. She's almost finished with law school, but she's real community active.
What
Yeah,
does she do? What is she? What is?
she's a house mom now, but she stays involved in the community, advocating for things, and she's working on getting back into law school so she can finish that.
Mm.
But I know she stays very active.
In her community? Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah. Like I said, a lot of
She's
these.
married to her high school sweetheart.
Oh, she did.
Yeah, John.
But I do know a lot of the people that end up coming like back to their community. And of course there's those students who ended up at the school because it was a smaller school and they wanted to go to a smaller school. They didn't want to go to a school that contained 1,000, 2,000 like of their peers. They wanted something small and intimate, and this is what it did for us. It provided like the necessary attention that we needed,
Right.
that we weren't going to get from like a regular high school.
And also, to be quite honest, the teachers, we put up with a lot more than the teachers in the public
Oh,
schools did.
yes. Oh my God.
Um,
Yes. I feel bad.
but I think that the payoff was that we knew that when we were in the hood, we were safe.
Yeah.
There was
Yeah.
no reason to feel uncomfortable because if any everyone
Nobody
was
ever,
always like,
I don't remember a student ever like, yeah, there was never, whenever there was like issues, there was always between students, and it was never like between students and admin or student, like teachers were off limits. Admins were off
right,
limits. Like you don't try to strike them. Like maybe they might give you a curse word or two, you write them up and situation dissolves and, and,
yeah,
and things are
yeah,
what they are. But
move
it's
on.
never been like, it's never been one of those situations where we would, where you ever like found it to like harm somebody, like you took it out like in other ways. It
Right.
was
And if somebody got hurt along the way, or somebody's feelings got hurt or lashed out at, we knew it was because of the way somebody was feeling and not a personal thing.
yeah.
But there were some teachers who deserved some personal stuff along the way. I mean, because I was lead teacher there for a
Hmm.
while,
Hmm.
and was involved with hiring and had the managers, and we had lots of great teachers, but there were a lot of teachers that it was good
Yeah,
to
there
see
was,
them move
yeah,
on. And then
yeah,
there were some people
yeah,
who moved on that I wished had stayed.
yeah, yeah. Working there, I understood. Like I understood some of them. They weren't. Maybe they just couldn't get hired anywhere else, and this was their opportunity to step in
Yeah,
to like move on. And
right.
of course, we had amazing teachers that did move on to like be principals of like actual high schools and do
Yeah,
admins on like other districts. I mean, they're doing amazing things right now, and they used that school as a stepping stone. And
right.
I think when you come from that kind of space, like there's a lot of leverage there. There's a lot that it's
Yeah.
not a regular high school. Like you're
My
dealing
my
with.
my experience working in the barrio was my ticket to the public school system. I mean, they were like,
Mhm.
"Oh yeah, you know a lot.
You're
Come,
golden. You're good.
yeah, you know a
Yeah.
lot. Come work with our kids." Um,
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, Jay,
So
So another success story, John Gonzalez, who's married to Nydia Rosales Gonzalez, he is the events manager at the George R. Brown Convention Center
yeah.
and is being courted by many other convention centers all over the country.
Thank you so much for joining us on season 2 of Juan Words Podcast. You can find us on
Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, on Stitcher, Spotify, and other platforms. Also on our website at juanawords.com. And we hope you enjoyed the episode that you're listening to right now.
And if you enjoyed it, you can leave us a review and a thumbs up. If especially on the Apple platform, the higher ratings and the reviews we get, the more listeners we actually can be found by.
Yeah.
So
it really does help us. So we really would appreciate it, a rating or a review on Apple Podcast. And until next time, thank
see
you.
you then. Bye.
Bye-bye.
because I definitely don't want to keep taking up your time today.
You know what I'm doing today? I'm going to Specs because tomorrow's Daniel's birthday, and plus we're out of wine. And I'm doing some odds and ends grocery shopping. So take as much time as you want, but you have things to do, huh?
They have really good,
You got a life?
sandwiches there. Juan gets them there all the time. The Reuben sandwiches.
Yes,
Actually, they're really good. Damn it! Now I want some. I might end up at Specs too. The peanut butter biscuit. Oh, that's whiskey. Oh my God. They have something called peanut butter whiskey. Juan drank the whole bottle. It tastes like it's sweet. It tastes like vanilla. It's really freaking good. Yeah, I'm not a big drinker, but I'll drink that.
Right. I like the Baileys on the ice cream.
Did you pick that up?
Chocolate cake.
Okay, so yeah, to wrap it up.
So how did my path actually? How did my ship get into your lane of traffic and education?
Yeah.
I grew up in a house of liberal New York Jewish, questioning religion, questioning everything, justice fighters. Probably would have been blacklisted in the 50s if I had been alive. Born 10 years too late to be a hippie kind of guy, but I love my aunt who was a hippie. And so I graduated from high school out in Northwest white suburbia, and really the only Hispanics I knew were the kids who were ESL students, the like 10 or 15 of them that would get special classes, and they didn't even sit with us at lunch. But when I went off to college at Texas, I got to meet so many people from all walks of life. But then they were still the kids who were like four-year university kids. But I was totally cool meeting anybody. And I would play with anybody, who cares? And so when I finished college and I was looking for a teaching job, this came up. It was like, perfect. So I'm so grateful because now I'm like Puro Tejano, and all that. And, but my education really started at Sanchez, and like with people like Albert Gallegos, and being exposed to ethnomusicologists like Chuy Negrete, singing and performing and telling Chicano history and stuff. And for me, that was, at first, it was so alien, but the more I became, I worked at Sanchez, 22 years. It became really important for me to learn the culture, to be able to identify. And so now I feel like, and being adopted, not really knowing my background, I kind of get to pick whatever costume I want to wear, I guess. So here I am, this kind of person without a background who has, through his whole life, shaped who he is. And I call myself New York Jewish, Chicano, atheist, hippie, and so it was just like this perfect match for me to join a culture.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful.
I think out of a lot of the teachers, I think when they're teaching in a school like that, it's not only important, but I think it's necessary to be able not to just identify, because it's a different pattern. It's a different beat. It's a different drum. You're going to have to be able to not assimilate, but understand, to be able to teach these students when they come like that, when they're coming at you like that. Like I said, I think
had I never like experienced what I did there, I don't think I would be doing what I'm doing now. And I really don't know. I really don't know. I'm really, really grateful that I'm actually doing this. Um, but what would you say, Jay? What would you say that like what did it really teach you to work there? Like what did you like now that you don't work there, now that you're not there with those same students, those same families, that same like that familiarity? Like what would you say now looking back at it?
When, as a person
Yeah.
and as a teacher, because I don't
Okay.
separate the two, um, to really wait and listen and wonder and try to recognize that what I might be hearing is how I'm hearing things and
Hmm.
not what people are showing or telling me. It's kind of like astronomy. We only see part of the stars, but there's so many things that we don't see. But if we wait, the connections happen.
Hmm.
Um, yeah. So to be a waiter, a listener, um, a considerer. I still jump to conclusions. You know, I mean, you show me somebody with red hair making statements, and I'm going to say, "What a schmuck."
Yeah.
Um,
Would you say you've gained patience?
yeah, but I think I've always been patient.
Okay.
Um, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think that's one of my traits that gives
Hmm.
me a little edge. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. My husband has the
yeah.
same trait. I admire it.
Letting things roll off the back and just kind of go, okay, now, all right, situation changed. Let's deal with it. You
Yeah.
know, which brings me to kayaking, which, you know, I've always been a water person.
Hmm.
And so, but growing up in a very modest middle class household, we didn't have fun toys. I mean, we got color TV. I think we were the last in our neighborhood to get color TV. We didn't get cable until I left off to college, I think, or something like that. It was like, man, you know, you had to wait. Um, and we had like one of the smaller houses in the subdivision. And so all my toys I got when I could afford it after I was teaching for like 10, 15 years. So around age 40, I'm going to be 57. Around age 40, I said, all right, I'm going to learn how to kayak. And so I
Hmm.
did that. And I've learned from kayaking that you use the water
Hmm.
to navigate. And you have a paddle, but you shift your weight, and you know you the water is going to move, and you might not be able to get back to where you came from without getting picked up or walking along the shore. But you can get through these rapids. You can get through this quiet part. You can avoid these obstacles. You can take a rest here and there, observe the beauty and all that. But really, ride the water. Let the
Yeah.
water guide you and work with it. Use the currents and things to your advantage.
Yeah. So you see, this is analogies. This is where I get analogies from.
Yeah.
You see, Juan, he does very much better than I do at analogies than I do. He understands it because I'll try to do analogies. He's like, I have no idea what you're saying. Please just be direct with
Well,
me.
think of a kayak as flat bottom,
Yeah.
like a whitewater kayak,
Yeah.
and so you've got this water coming, and you can actually ride a wave and stay in one place. You can
Hmm.
cross a river using the current with a certain angle of your kayak
Yeah.
to get across a straight line and stuff. And you know,
Yeah.
but you have to know what the water's doing, and your relationship to it. In the Talmud, the Jewish holy book, that is like the commentary of the Torah, there's a saying, you can't control the wind, but you can learn to sail.
Hmm. Are you listening to this,
Mm.
Juan? Are you paying attention to this?
You
I
can't
had a I
control
had
the
a college
wind.
professor who did very beautiful with analogies too. Eventually, I'll get there someday. I'll get the wisdom. But so like
Be the water, be the water.
either
Like
way.
Bruce Lee.
So as a person, it shifted you. Would you say the same thing as a teacher?
Yeah, being a teacher, I'm actually learning more about stages in life.
Okay.
Um, when I first started teaching, um, I was the young, naive, taking in everything. I mean, I was really new to the world.
Hmm.
Um, In my 40s, I knew how to play the game, the numbers game, and I did
Mhm.
really well at it. Let's get these scores up. Let's, kids, I need you to do this. If you want to be able to do this, I need you to do this. Keep them out of my hair. And I still do the numbers game as much as we need to. But now it's just like, okay, I've seen so many kids succeed in with what I do, and how I can support them in other ways, with other teachers and making it through life. And um, that I just know that most of the kids are going to do fine.
Mhm.
And so I don't stress out really anymore.
Okay.
I don't knock my brains out.
Mhm.
Me time is really important.
Okay.
So, yeah, I don't spend hours on lesson plans because I know if I'm teaching this lesson, this is what I need to get accomplished. And I know how to ride the water. I know how to sail the boat. I don't need to script everything out like some other people might want me to, or require others to do,
Mhm.
to get where I need to get, or get the kids where they want to get.
Yeah.
Need
Yeah.
to,
Because
want to,
ultimately it's gonna be
there's
there.
all the needs and wants.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
don't stress out. I don't knock my brains out. I make enough time for me, and I take full advantage of that. And yeah, not having planned on having, or having planned on not having children, I have so much
Mhm.
me time. It's like, yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm so fortunate.
Looking back to my high school career of like what was it when I dropped out and I came back and all of that stuff, all my 6 years, I think a lot of the things that I learned, and I especially learned there was like responsibility, not responsibility what it looks like, actually taking responsibility, owning like the things that I did,
Yeah.
and trying trying to navigate that myself, understand that everything that happens isn't somebody else's fault, isn't somebody, I was there because I wanted to be there. I did what I did because I wanted to do that, not because of necessarily my upbringing, not because of
It's
whatever.
destiny. It's
Yeah.
destiny. And
Yeah.
remember, destiny and destination have the same root.
Hmm.
So the destination you choose, that's your destiny.
Yeah. Yeah. So I've learned that. I'm very grateful for that. But like I said, it's those opportunities that like now that what I'm doing here, being creative is all I ever wanted to do. If I wasn't
I
doing
miss
this,
your costumes. I want to see Madeline again.
you want to see Madeline? I do. I
Yeah.
plan on doing a lot of that. Like being creative is just the thing that I wanted to do always. And so being creative in the way I express myself, whether the way I speak, how I write, or
Mhm.
it's an entire imagery. That's just what I wanted to do. That's all I ever wanted to do. And the fact that we're here now, and this is the way we like make money, it's like I'm beyond grateful for it. And like I said, sometimes you have those certain people that the universe aligns to put them there for a reason, and it's just a striking reminder. And I had those opportunities to be able to move along, and I always do. I always keep up with what you're doing, like Jay. It's because
I do
I
that
am very
too.
curious.
I'm a lurker.
You're I am. I look at everybody's posts. People don't think you're doing it.
Me
I'm
too,
doing it.
right?
If I'm interested in what you're up to, of course I am. But I look to see what you're doing and how you're maneuvering, how you're moving around, and how you're what, like now your department, something of the English department there at the high
Well,
school that you're
no,
at.
I'm just an English teacher now, but I'm the internet. I'm the technology guru because I've been using it so long. Thank
Mhm.
you, Sanchez, for all that free professional development. Um, and yeah, so I'm like the old man on the mountain that all the other
Yeah.
teachers come to for things like. And it's like, yeah, okay, do it this way. Like, oh, that's so simple.
No, Jay, here's the thing. You think you're staying still, but you're not. You're constantly trying to be out there. You're constantly taking the moment to do what you need to do. You think you're staying still, but
I
you're
tell
not.
I tell Daniel, it's like I've got to get out today.
Yeah.
Even if sometimes I just get in the car and I just go for a drive.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, where's my drive? Okay, there's a lake here that I can go swimming in. So it's really the 2 hour drive out and back that really
Mhm.
matters. And the
Yeah.
swim is just like, okay, let's get some good pictures out here. But I got out for like half the
Yeah,
day.
there's a lot that happens when you're in the car. A lot of our really great conversations that me and Juan have are actually in the car.
Yeah.
Our drives to Austin always result in some crazy like theories or some crazy conversations, and we're always like the podcast. The whole thing, like doing this podcast, came from like a drive there. I was like, I have the equipment. Why aren't we doing this?
Mhm.
And so we really love our time like that too. And I can see why those drives they're mesmerizing. It
Yeah.
clears your mind. There's nothing to do, you know?
Exactly.
And so, all right, Jay. Well, thank you so much for having the conversation
Okay.
with me. I
Yeah,
really,
this is
really enjoyed it.
wonderful. And I look forward to once we get this distance um, practice over with and everybody's vaccinated, we will have a big get together. I want dinner definitely.
Yeah, I'm up for it. So, hell, I'll even plan it.
All right. Okay.
Thank
All
you, Jay,
right.
for
This has been
talking to me.
wonderful.
Thank you so much for taking the opportunity. And like I said,
We've got plenty of time for a part 2 at some point.
yeah. Well, love you much, Jay. Thank you for
All
talking.
right.
All right. We'll see you soon.
And also, I'll get together some pictures if you guys. I don't know if you want to edit in any pictures and stuff, like when we're talking about.
Send them to me anyway.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
And then some of them I think are. Gosh, yeah. Okay, I will. I'll probably send it. I'll send them to you through Messenger, I guess.
Okay. Yeah, I'll look
Okay.
forward to
All
them.
right. Okay.
All right, Jay. Thank you so
Ciao.
much. You have a great day.
You too.
All right. Bye.
All right, and there you have it. And that's the conversation I had with Jay Cherin. I thought I reminisced a lot. I went back to a lot of the things that he was saying. I try to put myself back in that mental, in that mental state. And I have to say, listening to him and the encouragement that he gave even then, it still resonates with me now, which is why I kept up with him.
Well, you know what? I think you mentioned it on the show, but I think I see where you get your analogies from now. But I think you need to practice your skills a little bit.
Yeah,
Anjelica.
I do. I've heard all of my English teachers use analogies, and he just perfected. Like
I really liked what he said about the raft.
The raft,
Yeah, what he was talking about the kayaking. I really liked that.
The water.
And then there was another one that he said, and it was like, but he was full of a lot of
intuition.
a lot of those those little golden nuggets in there, and I was like,
that makes sense.
When he was saying them, I was in the back, and I heard them, and I was like, my ear perked up. I was like, oh, like,
it makes sense. It makes sense.
I like what he just said.
Yeah. I try to do those analogies, and I can't master them. I mean, this is the difference between your old folk here, your good old folk here, and English teachers. Like, they just know. They just have a way with words, and I think he's one of those people who just knew. And then the fact that he was able to connect with all these students from that school made the difference for a lot of these other students. He keeps up with a lot of other students. He keeps up with a lot of the other teachers that were there. I mean, because we were like we knew what was happening. And so a lot of us keep up with each other from then.
No, I think that's pretty cool. That's what it was. It was destiny and destiny and destination
have the same.
Yeah, and when he said that, I was like, oh,
destiny and destination have the same path.
Yeah, or have I forgot how he said the same root word. I think he said.
Yeah.
And I think they're like, so much respect for that. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I like those.
Yeah.
But thanks for watching, guys. And like Anjelica said, we hope you enjoyed the conversation, and we look forward to having other guests on the show. So as usual, if you want to follow us, find us, and you can just go to look at Juan of Words, search for us as Juan of Words. And if you are so inclined, we really would appreciate it if you go to Apple iTunes and leave us or Apple Podcasts, not iTunes, and leave us a rating and a review. We'd really appreciate it.
Yeah, it helps.
All right, see you later, guys.
Bye.
You know I had to do it, had to. You back up on your bullshit, don't belong to me. You acting all sleazy, I don't like what I see. I got all the game, don't get fucked in your brain. I can do you worse than you ever